It's Matty Fresh on the track up estate. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and balling like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball. We have the Minnesota Whiteout game preview today. We're not talking anything about Michigan, even though I think their fan base likes us more than maybe even the Penn State fan base by the looks of our game recap video anyway. But Nate got the night off because it's his birthday. I don't know how old he is. He probably doesn't want to tell us anyway. So Tyler is going to stand in for the first part.
Here we go. Yeah, Nate's 21 out, so that's all that matters. Right.
Yeah, Nate's 21. Can't.
Ready big.
Yeah. He went to the first or whatever. Yeah, he was.
He
had a long night.
Yeah.
So we weren't going to get him tonight. And then who knows where Justin was. I think he hit like a $20 bet. So he probably went streaking or something. So
yeah, he's off the deep end right now.
Yeah. So, it's going to happen. But getting to the game here, both these teams probably need to win this game. Penn State 5-1 coming off of the really bad beating they took by Michigan. And then Minnesota 4-2. They really need to win this game in order to stay alive in the West, even though it's already a long shot. A loss here would pretty much end it. Both teams' quarterbacks left the game last week. Tanner Morgan for Minnesota with a concussion is still questionable, I think. Sean Clifford left with a shoulder injury. He practiced tonight, so he probably plays. But, do you go with Clifford for this game? Maybe, Nate and I talked about this a lot on Monday, but, if Clifford is at least 90%, is it still the right thing to do?
I don't know. I mean, it's getting to that point where no matter how big a Clifford fan you are, and I've been one of those for the last 4 years of defending him to a T, but I mean, that Michigan game was brutal. By no means was Michigan his fault. There's nothing Drew would have done differently that would have made that game any different. But I mean, it's pretty obvious there's a lot of issues with this team that we didn't see playing some of those cupcakes to start the year. That this team's sure, 10-2 would be awesome. And it's totally realistic. But at the same time, why not just get Drew some reps at this point?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to eventually happen. I don't know if he'll ever this season, unless it goes really off the rails. I don't think this. I don't think he'll ever become the full-time star this year. I could see it maybe getting to the point where it's 60-40 in terms of in-game snaps. They bring him in, try to get him in a series, a quarter or something like that. I could see them start to do that once, if they lose this week or to Ohio State or both, you're not really playing for the Big Ten anymore. So rotating him in wouldn't hurt at all. So I could see that happening. I don't think they ever fully commit though this year unless it gets super, super bad.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But I think it's totally in the realm that they're going to start getting him that series in the second quarter that no matter what the situation is, whether it's 7-0 the other team, I think if they're saying we're going to give him the third series of the game, they're going to get to that point where he's getting the third series. I mean, it's also Sean's fourth year. He's, as much as we hate to admit it, he's earned the right that he's come back, fought through a lot of injuries, and as much as some of the fans hate him, he's done a lot of good for the program. So he does kind of have that right to go out on his own terms and not to be completely benched and thrown his whole career in the trash because of that.
Yeah, for sure. And, they have to try to put up some points this week against Minnesota because the offense is really struggling lately. They only scored 33 against a Central Michigan team, which was pretty bad on defense from looking at their other games. Then they only scored 17 against Northwestern. Now they turned the ball over 5 times and there was a hurricane and all that. And then last week against Michigan, the offense only has 10 points because they scored 7 off the pick 6. And then this week they play Minnesota, who only allows 11.7 points per game. So they're playing another tough defense, and they just have to get something going. And, it really starts, I think they have to be able to throw the ball a little more because the receivers just don't seem to be getting open. And I also don't think they're doing a lot to get the receivers open. Like a lot of I thought they could have done some screens and stuff against Minnesota or against Michigan, try to get the ball out quicker. And I think they need to get a little more creative with how they get the ball to the receivers.
I agree. I mean, if you look at just the game so far this year, it's a completely different offense than it was even against you to start the year. It's just there's no crossing routes, there's no deep shots really, there's no quick game. It's like it's the same concept over and over and over again. Of course, at this level, teams are going to catch on to that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of like a breaking point for the team. I feel like if they come out flat and it's just a complete dog shit game again, then I think we're going to lose Ohio State by a ton, and it's just going to go spiraling downhill from there. I mean, win or lose this game, we got to show something. We got to have some life on offense. We got to have a lot of those big plays, and it's a good time to do it. It's the whiteout. You're going to have the fans behind you. Crowd support is going to be huge. So it's a time where they kind of got to put up or shut up and decide if they want to be a good team this year or not.
Yeah. And, before kind of getting into more of what Minnesota is, the fact that this is the whiteout, I think, is a huge benefit to them, because if they came off the loss to Michigan last week and then this game was at noon or 3:30 and then Ohio State was the whiteout the next week, I honestly don't know if there's a chance they win this game just because of how bad they usually are coming off of a loss. And then the fact that they might be looking ahead to Ohio State in the whiteout the next week. I think this would be a big disaster if this game wasn't the whiteout. So in a way, I think this kind of worked out in their favor a lot that Ohio State was noon and they decided to go with the night game for the whiteout, because I think it might have saved them here.
Oh, big time. I mean, you just look at recent history. We're terrible off of losses and all those. It's just, if anything wrong goes for the program, you kind of just feel the whole team life goes out of everyone, and they're just not ready to go for those games. So I think the whiteout, the whole momentum, recruiting, it's going to play a factor for the team big time. I mean, talking to fans, though, no one's really that excited for this game. This is probably the least hype whiteout I could ever imagine. Someone was saying 2015 Michigan whiteout when it was Harbaugh's first game. That was a noon game, but it was still Harbaugh's first game there. Still a pretty good Michigan team. People were still there, kind of hyped for the game. Everyone I'm talking to is it's the whiteout, I'm going to go, but do I really want to be there? I kind of want to hope they're up by a lot at halftime, head down to the bars, stuff like that. So it's a different atmosphere.
Yeah, no, this is the first whiteout since the one in 2016 against Ohio State that Penn State's not undefeated going into it. And, I think that plays a role as well, because I think a lot of fans look at that as the whiteout's usually one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game on the schedule. And if Penn State's undefeated, the fans look at it as we're helping them get into the playoff if we help them win this game by being an electric crowd. So I understand the tone being down. And also in 2016 with how good that Ohio State team was, and the fact that even though Penn State had 2 losses, people just loved Barkley and McSorley so much that they were going to be excited anyway. So it is a little different because I don't want to say this, maybe this team just isn't as likable as the 2016 team, and that's why people aren't as excited. And I kind of get it, but yeah, the vibe does feel different. I also think the fact that it's Minnesota, and Penn State and Minnesota outside of that 2019 game have no beef or anything at all, and they already have 2 losses. I think that kind of brings it down too. It is as far back as I can remember the whiteout being the whiteout. It's been kind of the least exciting matchup. I know, last year looking back at it, Auburn was 6-6 and Penn State was 7-5, but at the time they were both 2 or 3-0 or whatever. So it is a totally different feel. And, that is a little, everyone's going to go, like you said, but it is a little kind of a downer that it doesn't feel like the vibe's the same.
Yeah, I think referencing the 2016 game was big right there, because if you think back to that game at all, we were 4-2. Franklin almost got fired after that Minnesota game. If
they would have lost,
if he lost, a lot of people thought he was gone right after that game. So, I mean, I think that was some of the life at the stadium. Also, it wasn't that full for the game. There was kind of that hail rainstorm, and it was kind of dead until that big fourth quarter, I guess. I was about to leave, honestly, and it kind of just feels something like that, where it's oh, we're going because it's the whiteout. But if it wasn't for that, then I don't think the stadium would really be that full. It's just kind of one of those yeah, it's the whiteout. You got to go up there and live it. But besides that, the game's just nothing that entices people. Entices the casual fan, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. So getting on to Minnesota, just talk about the defense a little, which, they're a stingy group. I'm not going to say they've played any offense that is insane. Like they haven't played Michigan or Ohio State. They've played Illinois, who is a very, ground and pound team, still effective, wins a lot of games, but not because of their offense, really. They played Purdue, gave up 20, which is not a bad number at all to give up to Purdue. But outside that, they really haven't played any crazy offenses. But for their offense, I mean, it is unfortunately it's kind of a carbon copy in a ways of Michigan, because even if Tanner Morgan plays or doesn't play in this game, I really don't think makes a difference. Like he was awful last week before he got hurt. He was like 4 of 12 for 20 yards with 2 interceptions. Like if he's in or out, I don't think it makes a difference. This is 100% on Mohamed Ibrahim and the other running backs of Minnesota just gashing Penn State like Michigan did. And that's kind of my number one concern, especially because Minnesota's offensive line actually, if you look at some of these grading things, grades a little higher than Michigan's does.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree just a little bit because I think having a 6-year senior in Tanner Morgan would be huge going into an environment like Penn State's whiteout. Yeah. And as bad as he is, Penn State just has a knack for making shitty quarterbacks look good at times.
That's true.
As good as our secondary is, it just always seems to find a way to happen against us. So I think that would be a big factor if he was out. Mm-hmm. But it does, like you said, fall on that running back. If Ibrahim plays well, then I think they're going to be in this game for a long, long time, and it's going to be very frustrating, and everyone kind of would sense what's coming. So it's kind of put up or shut up for our defense now. Is let's stop this running game. Let's make them throw every down in that environment. Let's let our secondary, which is probably the best part of our defense, do its work and see what happens. But for our offensive wise, come on. At this point, we got to just do what we got to do. We have the playmakers. We have probably the best offense in terms of talent besides Ohio State in the Big Ten. Like I know Michigan has that dominant running game with their offensive line, but I would probably take our receivers over theirs. If Clifford's playing Clifford, then I think that offense could be really good. It's getting frustrating to the point where I don't know why we're not being good every weekend.
Yeah.
So I think this is a big moment for them. They have like you said, a stingy defense they're going against. Let's finally see something. Let's see what Yurcich was brought here for. Let's spread the ball around. Let's take shots. Let's hit home run plays. We need to do something on offense to bring some life to this fans, or else it's going to be the keep groans and moans and let's get rid of Franklin. Let's start Alar. That will never stop if they don't finally do something to shut us up.
Yeah, even if they win this game and they win it 17-10, people are still going to complain because they just want to see the offense improve. And, like I said, with Minnesota being kind of good on defense, I don't know. This is really the week to do that. But I feel like a lot of people will take anything under 25 point or 25, 24 points as a failure. And so, that kind of is the thing they have to do. They have to be effective and sustain drives and kind of get out of those third and longs, because that was kind of the problem against Michigan was they tried to run the ball on first and second down, ran into a wall, and it was 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 every time. And they knew they were going to throw the ball on 3rd down, and Clifford was getting rushed, and the receivers weren't open because they were dropping guys into coverage too. So they have to avoid that. So yeah, there's a lot riding on this offense this week, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, Franklin made a comment at his presser of when they were talking about the deep shots and, you can't call a deep shot every time on 2nd and 1 because teams will know it's coming. And it's dude, at this point, it seems like the defense knows what's coming no matter what down.
It does feel that way.
It's such a predictable offense. It's handoff here, handoff there, throw, miss, 3 and out. And it's over and over. And, I mean, you can call the plays half the time before the ball snap just based on alignment and what we've seen from the past. So I think it's really this is going to show who Yurcich is and if he's going to stick around at Penn State or not. And I really hope he does, because I think a lot of people were excited when we got him, but he has not lived up to the hype so far. And we got to see what he's actually made of here.
Yeah, he might be smart, but I don't know, just the play calling just seems so bland and predictable. And I don't know. It's we can't even say they're hiding anything anymore, because what the hell wouldn't you use against Michigan? So I don't know if this is what it is. That wouldn't make sense. And a lot of people will say that the offense is hindered by Clifford being in it. But the truth is they open up a little more because of the fact Clifford can run the ball more than Aller, pretty much any running or any quarterback on their roster can. So I don't necessarily agree with that either. I just think this kind of is what he has right now, and I'm a little confused why it still looks as bad as it does.
I know it seems like there's no separation or like schematic formations to get people open. It's just it kind of looks like a high school offense at times, which is very frustrating with the talent we have. Like it's not like we're limited by scholarships anymore. It's not like it's guys that only get offers from Duke and Pitt. It's like guys that we've won big recruiting battles that we have out there. I mean, Singleton was the number one running back. We have Lambert Smith was a big get out of Virginia. Parker Washington we pulled from Texas, who I knew he blew up late, but it was still like we found some good programs. So we have talent here. I just don't understand why it's not opening up and we can't find more dynamic ways to spread the ball around to the different people on offense.
Yeah, they do not lack options, that's for sure. You know, even Theo Johnson is getting like 0 looks as the number 2 tight end. And this is a guy that was rated as like the number 2 tight end in his class behind like Darnell Washington, I think, who had, you know, his Final Four was like the four to be of tight ends. It was like Michigan, Iowa, Notre Dame, and Penn State. So like, you know, this is a top of the line talent too that needs to get the ball more too. And maybe part of the problem is that they're not sustaining drives. It's hard to give the ball to everybody when you go 3 and out every time. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it, but I would like to see them come out with a game plan to spread the ball around, because if they do that, they are hard to game plan for because of how many different options they have, and yet they just don't seem to do it.
I agree. And I know it's as unconventional as it sounds, like go crazy. At this point, you're 5-1. Everyone's kind of frustrated. Like, why not call some trick plays at the beginning of the game? Get some juices flowing. And when juices flow, people get excited. That's when linemen hold their blocks just a half second longer. That takes a 3-yard run to a 10-yard run, or a 10-yard run to a 40-yard run. So just find ways to get these players excited just a little bit more, get that little extra oomph out of them, and they can make this go just a little bit better. It's like the oil to the engine. Juices go a long way in this game.
Yeah, they do. That's for sure. Yeah, so a lot to I guess hope for on offense, and then, you know, really quick on defense before we move on to some other stuff. If there's a game to sell out and stop the run, it is this game, because, you know, Minnesota might not have Tanner Morgan, and they don't have their best receiver, Chris Ottman-Bell, who's out for the year. So if there's a time where you're going to trust that secondary that you claim to love so much, you don't really trust one-on-one, it seems like this is the game. Like, put a 5th defensive lineman in, or put 8 in the box. Like, this is the game to do that, because I don't know, if you don't do this game, there's no other game to do it. Like, they need to sell out and stop the run and hope that Joey Porter Jr. and Kalen King can stop guys that, quite frankly, probably aren't that good. So I think that's kind of the game plan for this game on defense, is just need to be sell out for the run. And also put your fastest players on the field. Like, please put Jacobs and Carter on the field together. I know, like, that was brought up, I think, in Franklin's press conference, or Diaz, I think, said it. One of them was talking today. And it was like, well, Carter's not a Mike or something, so we can't put them together. Well, we know Jacobs is a Sam, so put him back there, and you could put Carter at the will. I just think they need to find more ways, or even who cares if they're out of position if you're stacking the box anyway, really. So that's something they need to do too.
Yeah, and I mean, quite frankly, we should win this game purely based off talent and teams. We all know, like, Penn State's the better team on paper from eye test so far this season. Like, we should win this game. We should win it pretty significantly, in my opinion. So I think completely, like you said, like, let's put up or shut up. Let's put the box, let's load it up, and then let's let these secondary guys lock down their guys, because, like you said, the receivers probably aren't that good. So, I mean, it's kind of just, let's put that on film. So Ohio State has another thing to think about too. And don't overlook Minnesota by any means, because that's when things will bite you in the ass. But in all seriousness, like, this is a game we should win pretty easily. Why not go out there and just straight up dominate them for the whole game? No trickery, no tomfoolery. Like, sure, that was fun on offense. That's what we'll get the offense gelling more and going out and scoring. But on the defense, like, you're just a better defense. You're a better team. Go out there and shut them up. Like, load the box up, stuff the run, make them throw on this best secondary that a lot of the country is saying is the best secondary out there.
Yeah, it is time to really let those guys loose and do their thing. And if they give up a big play, I think you have to live with it, because it's better than getting gashed for 8 to 10 yards a carry and, having a repeat of Michigan where the other team has the ball for more than 2/3 of the game and your defense is gassed and your offense doesn't have a prayer. I think if you give up the big play, at least get you guys off the field, they get some rest, and you could put your offense out there to try to respond. So, there is kind of the benefits to giving up the big play. And I think they probably wish they gave up a couple more last week, but that it doesn't hurt to try, I guess, at this point.
I'd rather them take 5-6 shots there and hit like an 80-yard touchdown once than to have every single play they're running 7 yards down your throat, because you're just never going to off the field at that point.
Yeah.
Your defense on the field for 40 minutes in the game, they're just going to wear out and give up points every drive then. If you're forcing them to take shots, more than likely our defense is going to win those battles, at least more than they lose. So why not to let them have those? If they give up a big play every now and then, who cares? Like, we should be able to score on this team. So if they score 7-14 points off of shots like that, let it happen, as long as they're not consistently running down our throat and scoring every drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah. So if this game was not the whiteout, I was honestly really close to picking Minnesota for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Just the fact that 2017 Penn State lost coming off a loss. 2018 Penn State lost coming off a loss. 2019 they didn't lose, but they play a nail biter against Indiana at home. 2020 they lose 5 in a row, so that's that. And then last year they lose after the first loss that was also coming off the bye. So honestly, with all that said, this game being against a Minnesota team that is above average, at least I'd say. And then if Ohio State was whiteout the next weekend, I actually think this game would go very bad. But because it's the whiteout, they won't look ahead. They'll be up. I'm gonna take them not by a lot. I think we're looking at like a 24-17 game or something like that. I think it's gonna be a little pulling teeth-esque again, but it's better than losing, I guess. So I'm not as confident as maybe I originally was, but I'm still going to take them to win, mostly in part due to the whiteout, which Urban Meyer has said is good for 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And there's kind of two ways I've seen this game playing out. And both of them are Penn State wins, but they're both two different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
The first way it could happen is it's like the 2019 Michigan whiteout, where we jump out to that early lead, everyone's pretty comfortable, but then throughout the game, they just slowly creep back in, and the score doesn't look nearly as good as how we played. So I think that's a complete possibility, and I could see something like that 24-17 prediction you had. I think there's another way that if this team really they're serious about being good this year and they want to go in and they've had these team meetings and the leadership of PJ Mustipher and Jair Brown and Sean Clifford, they actually did some work this week in getting the team motivated, then I think there could be a complete butt whooping in hand, which I think Penn State needs. I think they need to get back in that program. And I think it really comes down to like that offensive play right at the beginning. The defense by no means played great last weekend, but the offense didn't help them out at all. They didn't sustain drives. They didn't score enough points at all. So I think this is where we finally see why we paid Yursich to come here. And I think he's going to get some of those trick plays. I think we're going to get some open runs. We're going to hit some deep shots. And I think let's go 34-17.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. I mean, that'd be nice. I do think they need that. They need to dominate a team that not on the same footing as they might say, just because if you look at this from like a recruiting ranking standpoint, this game hasn't been close. Like the average star rating of Minnesota's defense I saw on 247 was like 0.69 or something, which is like, that's like equivalent to like not even a bad 2-star.
Yeah.
Like that's really bad. So like, they're a tough group that clearly plays above their rating, but like, when you look at it like that way, like, come on, you need to beat this team handily, I think. But I don't know. I just have my concerns with the running game and just the way they play coming off a loss. But I still think with the whiteout and the talent gap, they still win. And I think that's kind of what happens there.
I agree. And I mean, sometimes a loss is the best thing to happen to teams. So maybe that actually will knock some sense in them, wake them up, and they'll go out there and finally show this team and the fans and the whole country, I guess, what they're actually capable of. And then they win that, then everything will be focused on Ohio State, and we'll see what goes.
Yeah. All right. So we got the game over with. So now we get to go to the better part of this, and that is our drink of the week. So here we go. What do we got?
So this week, I'm calling it the freeze out the whiteout. Obviously, everyone's going to be wearing white this weekend. So this might be a little difficult to make up at the stadium since you'll need a blender for it.
Right.
But if you're capable of, or if you're at home, Nate, I hope you make this over the weekend. Celebrate your birthday a little bit. But basically, you just want to take some white rum, lime juice, simple syrup, and ice. It's a frozen daiquiri for those who actually know their drinks. And you want to blend that all together, throw it in a cup, and drink right away. But the ice will give it that white flavor. It's actually going to be a really nice day in State College this weekend for mid to late October. So it wouldn't be bad if you're able to make it up there. It just gives you something to drink on that's white, show the support, and who doesn't love a little rum and cheer up the Saturday?
Yeah, I like it. I think we'll have problems with that, making that in the lots, but
Yeah.
I like that. I like the frozen stuff. I used to do that with that Smirnoff stuff and like red, white, and blue popsicles in the blender.
Yeah.
Like that's a good combo too. But like for the whiteout, I like this combo a lot. I think that is a refreshing one, especially because, like you said, 70 degrees in the middle of October in State College does not happen often. So that'll be fun.
Not at all. And I was trying to get a white drink, obviously, for the whiteout. And
Right.
as some of the drinks are good, but I just don't like mixing dairy with alcohol. So I think it leads to just like stomach upset. And I'm probably going to be a little counterintuitive with my drink for next week, but I don't think it mixes well. Some of those either dairy liquors or if you put like a milky drink.
Right.
So I like if you get the ice all blended up, it still gives that white look, and I think it works well for the whiteout.
I see it. All right. I like it. That's a good one. Very good one. Very creative for the whiteout week because, it is hard to find white drinks, I guess, because of all the stuff that usually gets added into those mixed drinks. But
yeah,
that's a solid one. Before we go, I did want to ask if you have any good whiteout memories from past games.
Well, obviously my favorite would have to be the Ohio State upset in 2016. Like I said earlier, I actually contemplated leaving about 10 minutes left. And then I was like, holy shit, we actually have a chance. Then with about a minute left, I looked at my friends who I was sitting with and said, holy shit, they're going to storm the field. And we were the first ones on the field.
Nice.
So that was pretty awesome. 2013, I think it was, the 4 overtime game with Michigan. That game will always be awesome. I always talk about that as a typical noon, 3:30 or night game. Like I loved how that game started at 5, was over by 9:30, but it was still dark the whole time because it was that mid-October kick. And then going to 4 overtimes was just sweet. 2019, I think we talked about before, but I lied my way out of underage while in college. That was meaningful for that reason. I mean, in general, the whiteout's just one of those special things. As cheesy as it sounds, I was telling my friends the other weekend that nothing makes me happier than going home and seeing the whiteout and just being in the stadium, feeling that energy. You just kind of look around, you see if people have their camera lights on when they're playing all the lights or singing Sweet Caroline in the middle of the second quarter, whatever it is. Like you're not going to have a bad time unless we're getting our ass kicked, which usually in the whiteout doesn't happen because we said before that whiteout just has magical powers.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing I'm most looking forward to is a night game because we get all day to screw around, drink, do everything. We got invited to a couple tailgates that we'll see. We might feature them next week if we do end up showing up to them and it goes well. You never know, it could go bad, but that is the plan. Yeah, we'll drop some photos on here. Hopefully, I'll be trying to use the cell phone because we didn't buy a camera, but whatever. Yeah, for me, like a funny whiteout story that I guess isn't funny, but I always think about it is the 2018 one. I didn't sit in the student section. I sat with my brother actually. And when it was 28-16 or whatever it was in the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes left, the two guys in front of us that we were talking to got up and like stood up to leave. And I'm like, where are you going? They're like, we're going to celebrate in the lots. And I was like, oh my God. And that's like at that moment is when I knew that that game was screwed. And I'm sitting there as Ohio State is like screen passing us to death. And I just thinking about those two guys the entire time. Like they got out into the parking lots probably and started like screaming and carrying on. And like everyone was probably looking at them like what the hell did you guys watch? Like,
Yeah.
I think about them a lot. It's a bad memory, but it's one that's like seared into my mind all the time. Like those two
Yeah.
guys and jinxing it and everything with that. But outside of that, every other whiteout memory I have is a positive one. So that's good because I think what five or 4-1 since 2016, 4-1. I think.
Our only loss was the 2018 since the 16 upset. So
Yeah, yeah. And
unless
then you
you're
have
counting
one,
the year where there really wasn't a whiteout,
right,
I
right.
think some people consider that, which is kind of dumb in my opinion. But
Yeah, I don't know how you do. I
yeah,
know ESPN like showed clips of the crowd like while the game was going on. They weren't there. That doesn't count.
yeah, there
I
was
don't know
no.
who I don't know who counts that. You're a psychopath, but
Yeah,
yeah, whatever. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're gonna go see Jay Nelly tomorrow night, which will be fun. So we're looking forward to that. Got
first
some
time meeting him in person.
for you. Yeah, I've met him a couple times. The first time I met him was the night before the Wisconsin game, I think last year. I was at a party in his building actually, and I told him to come down, and he did. And I had a bag of salt because I had like a water bottle of tequila, and I pull it out, and he literally thought it was like Coke and like freaked out and like wanted to leave. Like it's so uncomfortable. But that was my first time meeting Jane Ellie. So I hope your experience is just as
Oh
good
my
as mine was. Yeah.
This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Remember to like Michigan fans if you're still around, like Minnesota fans if you're coming here on Sunday for hot takes. Sure, like it too. I mean, we appreciate it. Subscribe if you're here if you want to see more. Michigan fans enjoyed it. Hopefully, the Minnesota fans do. Penn State fans, if there's any of you out there, hopefully you as well. I guess so. We'll be back next week. Gonna try to do 2 episodes again for the quick review, then preview back to back because obviously Ohio State, another big game. Want to give that its own attention. So we will see you next time.